Hello everyone, LioConvoy here. I want to start by thanking my patrons Avis, Hateful Tate, Harry Partridge, Busy Robot Hands, Bombastic Blake, Jody S., and Jonathan and Randa Bueller. If you want to support me, feel free to head to Patreon with the link in the description. The other day, I told Nintendo that he's welcome to play in my yard. This is because, like most people with some sense, he'll clean up after himself and not make a mess. The same can't be said for morons like the Quartering, though, who comes into my yard like a diseased, rabid dog, spreading parasites and droppings while tearing my yard up. Because, after all, it's not his yard, so he doesn't have to care. And like Old Yeller before him, it's time to put him down. What am I referring to, though? I'm of course referring to his latest video on Thundercats Roar, wherein he makes claims that he has no sources for. Now, I've had at least one viewer claim that I'm witch hunting for ideological purity at this point, but that is wholesale wrong. My point is the same as it's always been, and it's a simple one. You don't have to like Roar, but don't lie about it. Now let's look at that video, shall we?
That's right, it would appear that Thundercats Roar has been canceled or at the very minimum shelved as more and more information comes out as the show continues to not be released. They released 2 episodes back in January, and as far as I can tell, not much else has happened.
Appears to be canceled based on what? And not be released? They've been putting out new episodes weekly.
Who has apparently protected his Twitter account and his 500 followers.
If you do not like me, you are not allowed in my safe space.
I don't know, to be fair, when he privated this account, because I just started digging around today because a couple of new tweets came out.
It's been privated since 2018, likely due to misanthropic clowns like you, and you've got a lot of nerve talking about safe spaces and hurt feelings, considering you've got a glass jaw and a foreskin thick hide. But we'll get to that later.
Thundercats Roar and She-Ra, the Princess of Power, are 2 of the most recent reboots to suffer the wrath of angry fans who want things the same way they were in the 80s. This, of course, is false, wrong, incorrect. A willful misrepresentation.
Yes, in the case of the majority of the backlash, but not in the case of you specifically, Jeremy, because while she's not sexy anymore is often a straw man argument towards those that have criticisms of the show. In your case, it's literally what you were complaining about. I covered both your inability to remember the original series, as well as your asinine complaints in this video, back when you talked about She-Ra. The statements in this article fits you to a T.
What we want is respect for the source material.
No, Jeremy, that's what fans want. And you are not a fan of neither the original She-Ra, by your own admission, nor of the original Thundercats. As your first video on this topic, you showed without question that you couldn't care less about these franchises. You're just here to mine clicks and hatred because you have no talent.
Did not take what was once a beautiful feminine character and turn them into a 13-year-old boy, which, by the way, is a part of a clear agenda. Just watch the show. I mean, it pushes the same garbage that anyone else does. But anyway.
Any examples? Cases? Anything? Of course not. That takes effort. As far as agenda pushing goes, literally every show has an agenda. You can see any artist pushing their values in their art. It's literally one of the fundamental facets of art as expressionism. You quarter-wit.
Teen Titans Go is a perfect example of this. It replaced a highly popular Teen Titans animated series, focusing to choose more on lighthearted and bite-sized stories for a much younger audience. While many fans mocked the new childish approach, there's no denying that Teen Titans Go has proven to be a massive success in the younger demographic. The show has been for 7 years, sells a bucket load of merchandise, and continues to pull in crowds. Any way you look at it's a hit, and it justifies its own existence. Fair. However, it is one of absolutely numerous examples of that not happening.
So numerous, you can't even list one. Brilliant.
In fact, from what I understand, the original Thundercats reboot from 2011 ran into some Lego or licensing issues, and that's why it got canceled. It wasn't even necessarily because of bad ratings.
Again, Jeremy doesn't provide a source for this because he's just not smart enough to do so. I'll do a full video in the future covering why the 2011 series was canceled, but Jeremy has a bad habit of making positive claims without sourcing them.
Look at it in Twitter. People just completely dumping on the show from all directions. And we look at this thread. That face when Thundercats were aired with no warning and was canceled with no warning. And they had the absolute nerve to do this. And if you go down this thread, it was canceled. Also, no surprise, they couldn't let it go without one final smug jab.
Did you notice the bold text in his scroll? That's indicative of him using a search function specifically for Thundercats Roar canceled. This is where he pulls up tweets from random people to try and justify while he's making these claims. These people do not work for Warner Brothers. They do not work for Cartoon Network. They're just random people.
Wait, they canceled it? Smug is real. I mean, here, yup, all the staff moved on to other projects, and the creator reportedly left a while ago. A creator was fired, and the other staff all went off to other work on different projects. Lamau.
Source for that claim? Any? No. You're just going to put it out there unchallenged. While it is true that some of the staff have moved on, as I told Kaneon of Clownfish, the creator, Victor Courtwright, seems to still be with Warner Brothers. The claim that the show was put out with no warning is also incorrect, as it was announced on Cartoon Network's Twitter when it was released on the app, and the channel has ads for it regularly.
It wasn't even canceled, it was forcibly ended.
Citation needed. I'll never get it, but citation needed.
Now, I haven't found any major news media outlet covering this, so it's possible that this is all just made up. It would seem unlikely given all the evidence. The fact that the show is 2 years delayed and hardly ever on TV.
You literally put out a video with the title claiming that it's canceled, showing someone claiming that it's canceled, and tried to cover your nonsense by saying you haven't heard of any news sources confirming this, but you still think it's canceled. Holy crap, you're stupid, Jeremy. If you don't have confirmation for something, you talk about it under speculation. But you didn't. You just made claims.
The fact that the show's main producer has a protected Twitter account, the fact that the main producer looks like this.
Hey, Jeremy, newsflash. You two could be twins. For someone that calls other people soy boys all the time, you seem to be painfully unaware that you fit the stereotype given perfectly. All someone has to do is put a Nintendo Switch that you're excited for alongside your wall of junk and it'd be a perfect fit. If you're going to comment on his looks, be aware of your own.
Clearly people do watch it. I mean, it's written for little kids who like to learn how to disrespect their elders at a young age. I don't know.
Teen Titans Go has so much you can legitimately criticize, and you're so stupid you can't even do that right.
It's not for me, obviously, but you don't see me criticizing Teen Titans Go. I'm criticizing a show called Thundercats Roar, which took a beloved IP and turned it into an absolute joke.
So you don't criticize Go because it's not for you due to not being a fan of the original cartoon, but you'll criticize Roar even though you're not a fan of Thundercats. You're a koala-brained simpleton that doesn't even realize in the moment when he's killed his own argument.
Well, from what I understand, it was leaked or there was a preview on the Comedy Central app. And then right now, I haven't seen any new episodes.
It had 2 episodes released on the Cartoon Network app. This is how I can unapologetically say this clown doesn't know what he's talking about. Even 5 minutes Googling is too difficult for Hamburglar here. Then again, this is the same guy that put this as get woke, go broke, when that doesn't apply to this show. While having left-leaning people in entertainment is common, Roar, to my knowledge, doesn't push any woke ideology. It literally makes everyone in the show stupid, sure, but that's not a woke thing. And you can't really argue it with the art style either, as there is clearly sexual dimorphism between the characters on the show. If anything, male characters have muscles in places muscles shouldn't even be. But that's enough on the video itself, let's talk about the aftermath, finishing with more of why quartering is dumb and only morons watch him thinking he's right. When I saw this video, I decided to respond both on the video itself and by screen capping my comment and tagging him with it on Twitter, flatly telling him to keep his brand of rage baiting out of my yard in the same way I told your boy Zach to. Later that day, Jeremy responded in the most morally responsible way by telling me that my issues were sound and that he'd take better care in how he talks about things. No, of course not. He just retweeted it with hose mad because a man's brain is far too eaten away with his conspiracy theories to offer an actual rebuttal. This, of course, is a tactic used by people with large followers to get their followers to do their fighting for them. Because when Medicare challenges you and tells you nothing gets you in fight mode, you have to prove him right. And frankly, I had a blast. Jeremy, your followers are a bunch of mental infants. like this guy who tried to take a shot at me for calling you a failure due to your sub count allegedly proving that to be incorrect. But when I pointed out that plenty of other losers have had large followings too, and that doesn't change the fact that they're losers, he immediately turned heel and contradicted himself because he's a moron. Good job on the audience you cultivated there, champ. I didn't have to block a single one of your followers, but about 8 or 9 of them wound up blocking me because, like you, they can't handle someone that can throw a punch. I also made a post in that thread making it clear what my issues with your video was, that you made claims without providing sources. You then retweeted it, proclaiming that the claims were in the video. Someone called NASA, we've got a genius here. So either Jeremy can't read, or he's so dumb that processing what I said overclocked his tiny little brain. Let me give you some advice, Hamburglar. If you want to send people at me again, try literal school children. They're not only smarter than your fans, but likely better at actually hitting people. Speaking of your fans, when I talked about fighting and how you should have probably taken some classes in self-defense due to an event we'll talk about later on here, I had one of your supporters decide to defend Senpai's honor and challenge me to a fight. Generally, I'll be your huckleberry, but time is a factor. He even offered to pay for my half of the flight once our fight is over. How generous! Of course, that doesn't change the fact that time is still a factor, so I countered by telling him I won't pay for half of his flight, I'll pay for the whole thing were he to come down here. He never responded back because the Quarterings fans are just as weak and stupid as he is. But let's talk about the Quarterings some more and other nonsense he's pulled, like this tweet. Anyone who knows about him knows about this tweet. But what's the context for it? Well, thanks to this account, I have my answer. Michael Giacchino, an award-winning musical composer, put out a tweet about how the original King Kong will be getting a re-release. One other guy decided to jab at him and proclaim it to have been Hitler's favorite film. Hamburglar here, without looking at any context or reason, quote-tweeted the composer's response to the Hitler statement. And it's going to haunt him forever now. He, of course, deleted the tweet because he rightly got mocked into the ground for it. Why did he do it, though? Well, apparently he thought the composer making a statement about how society as a whole thinks of Hitler is apparently virtue signaling for retweets, and just isn't brave enough for a take for his tastes. Because when you're told you screwed up and that you're wrong, doubling down is absolutely what you should do, right? Totally not address it properly like an honest person and apologize. Heck, I've gotten things wrong in my own videos before. For example, based on the timing and content of the tweet, I assumed Nico Coelho was defending a former friend of his that was outed as a pedophile on that day. But Katrin Snodgrass, an industry animator that you should totally follow on Twitter, by the way, corrected that and gave me context for it. Did I accuse her of covering up for him or lying? No, I told her I was skeptical, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because she knows him better than I do. Because admitting you're wrong is what honest people do. But then again, Jeremy isn't an honest person, is he? Because later on he tried to triple down and also stated that the composer was a comics pro. Because a famous composer like Michael is often seen in the credits of your latest Batman comic. Speaking of Batman, we also have the Quartering raging about a Batman comic. This existed as a concept for the better part of a decade or more now. Is it replacing the mainline Batman? Are they rebooting the current canon? Surely they must be to have such an outrage. No. It's just yet another alternate universe story of Batman, just like White Knight and Creature of the Night were. But Jeremy is a complete goon, and farming for outrage is all he knows how to do. He doesn't actually know comics or care about them. He just wants to profit off the people that do and are dumb enough to look at him for news due to their cognitive bias. Because he will absolutely switch his point of view on a dime if it'll earn him $1. For example, we see his tweet about how he thinks young, healthy people should expose themselves to the illness going around right now because an emergency like this is totally like the chicken pox. Of course, Jeremy never takes his own advice, but immediately changes his stance if he thinks it'll drive viewership. And that's what this is all about, right? That's what he admitted to concerning his Brie Larson videos. He only puts them out if it gets him the attention he likes.
Did you make 12 videos on Brie Larson and then you call me out for making Logan Paul videos?
No, actually, I made probably like 40. And again, I've already addressed why.
That's like rewired soul level of crazy.
That's legendary. That's one of my most profitable topics.
Oh yeah, it's a money. Cash cow.
He tried to expound upon this by attacking Cindy Chu due to her statements on people's worldviews and Trump. This led to him calling her the Asian Brie Larson and saying she's the star of Disney's Mulan, which is patently wrong, as the star for the new Mulan is Yifei Liu, which means Jeremy just keeps proving he's too stupid to do a Google search. You have a lot of people that have accused you of being an alt-right racist, Jeremy. Have you tried proving them wrong? We also have Jeremy trying to give people advice about relationships. And frankly, I'd trust him on relationships about as well as I would trust Biden at a Girl Scout meetup, especially since he's allegedly in a relationship and unironically asks fans for tit pics. Now, I don't know if he's in a polyamorous relationship or not, but I don't think someone as terrified as SJW Boogeyman as he is would be in one. It kinda goes against his brand. But what I can tell you, though, is the Quartering is a complete dick bag and doesn't really understand the variables that exist within sexual assault cases. But since I have spent the past 2 years ultimately dealing with those things, let me explain this to you, Jeremy, since your mother didn't have the decency to do so before flinging you out into the universe. While going to the police is always a recommended solution, it is not always possible or viable. It varies on the level of control, and sometimes those things can uproot your entire life. While I believe it's important, very important, to not accuse people falsely of sexual crimes, for some people, publicly addressing it is the only option they really think they have. And this goes doubly for men, but you'll never address that, I'm sure. I was irritated about your nonsense concerning Thundercats, but this dribbling pile of stupid from your drooling mouth makes me livid, and makes me wonder if you're setting up for someone to come out about you next. Or I would, but we all know you don't leave your recording booth for more than bathroom breaks so you can get 3 videos out in a day. Jeremy also purged a bit of his Twitter as well, promising less fights. That lasted less than a month, as at the time of this recording, he's been mad for 48 hours because Andy Warski made fun of a dumb hat he bought. Yes, the person who accuses others of needing safe spaces and being too soft for criticism can't handle people making fun of his hat. And what is this hat exactly? This. Jeremy, if there were a meme war, you'd have committed stolen valor. Quartering has been at this a while, though, and has built himself quite a reputation due to it. A wise man, knowing he were controversial, would be wise enough to be cautious in public events. But Jeremy isn't wise. He's a braying mule, so of course he got attacked. Now, before any of you morons go frothingly into my comments section and accuse me of being okay with Jeremy being assaulted, let me make this clear. I am not. I believe violence can, and in some cases should, be used to solve problems. I'm not justifying this specific event in any way, shape, or form. What should have happened is Matthew should have flatly just issued Jeremy a challenge, and they could have settled it in the ring or in a mutual combat state. That's how you handle these things. If you want to talk about proper masculine values, maybe, just maybe, Quartering, you ought to hit the gym. But I have seen the Quartering fans spread a little bit of false information here, claiming the guy just walked up and sucker punched Jeremy out of nowhere, but the news article says otherwise. According to this article, link in the description, Matt Loader approached him at an eatery at 1 a.m. during the weekend of Gen Con and asked him to confirm that he is Jeremy Hambley. I want you to understand the placement here because it's very important. That means he was talking to Jeremy, and Jeremy was aware of him, likely meaning they were facing each other. After Jeremy confirmed his identity, Matt struck him several times. This wasn't a sucker punch from behind, this was a direct attack. And the Quartering didn't have the foresight to get training for this eventuality. He didn't defend himself in the moment. His fight or flight just completely shorted out on him, and he has not sought self-defense since then either. Because at his heart, the Quartering is a coward that's conflict adverse. I'd go into this more, but Nick Diorio's video does a better job proving that, and you should really watch it. Its link is also in the description. Back to the con, though. After having this incident reported to them, Gen Con decided the best thing to do would be to ban both Jeremy and Matt. Odd, though, isn't it? Why would they ban Jeremy? Well, the article gives us insights as to why, due to the specific language in the letter. They're worried about online harassment, likely either of their own con or Matt Loader himself. This is due to Jeremy raging about some cosplay model a while back, and said idiotic fans of his dogpiling her on social media. Granted, I don't think Jeremy should specifically be blamed for the actions of his fans, but it speaks to the fact that Jeremy is a moron that doesn't understand cause and effect. When you are large in social media, you have an unspoken contract with the people that follow you. A responsibility. And for all the raging Jeremy does about modern media removing masculine traits like courage and responsibility, he seems to have been incapable of applying them in his own life. Even recently, he made a joke where he tries to ratio a commenter while offhandedly praising Hitler. Joke or not, a smart man aware of his own surroundings and his own reputation would be cognizant of his image and impact. But Hamburglar here isn't. Jeremy Hambley, the Quartering, you're a dishonest, hypocritical, lying sack of cowardly crap. Your mindset and content are stuck in 2015, and sooner or later, time will catch up to your channel. And the mindless jackanapes that follow you will find other outrage peddlers. At that moment, I hope the only place people will catch you is as the greeter at Walmart. And if any of his fanboys want to come and try and bump their chest out at me in the comments here, save your breath. Instead, follow the Discord link in the pinned post and come defend your boy in whatever way you want. The server linked is not PC, and there's no spooky SJWs to get offended at your stupidity. But I bet none of you will show up because, just like Jeremy, you're all talk and no substance. I'm LioConvoy. Take care. Also, he's still mad about She-Ra, and that's absolutely hysterical.